On February the 2nd, Joe was recording with his studio assistant, Patrick Pink.
Joe had decided, with Hines out of the way, there was X amount of tracks that needed to be voiced over, and I started work on them that afternoon and that evening. He started coming out and shouting at me. They're listening to me through the wall. Then he started writing down notes saying, mime to your own song. Just mime, just mime. I ended up miming to my own song for about 1 hour or so in the evening before I said, I've had enough, Joe. Joe carried on working. When I woke early in the morning, I could still hear the tapes rolling upstairs. I chatted upstairs, Joe, come and get your breakfast, come and get your toast and coffee. He sat down with me, ate one slice of toast, drank some of the coffee, wrote a note saying they're still listening to me. And I said to Joe, do you want me to call the doctor? And I took my life in my hands actually saying that because, and he shouted, no, I don't need no doctor. Well, Joe was up in the studio, tapes were playing loud, and he put his head over the banister and shouted, tell Mrs. Shenton to come up and see me. About 5 minutes later, Mrs. Shenton came up. She came over to me just outside the office. She said, is he in a bad mood again? I said, yeah, be careful. She said, oh, okay, I'll come up and sort it out. Don't worry, you'll be all right. And with that, she went up the stairs. I went back into the office, sat down at the desk, and all of a sudden, I've rushed to my feet. Literally, as I've gone out into the corridor, Mrs. Shenton's tumbling down the stairs. I literally caught her in my arms, and she's landed on the floor with me. As she did, she sort of turned over, and I could see that there was damage to her back with loads of smoke coming out. My first reaction was to shout to Joe, who was watching from the landing upstairs, she's dead. And he looked at me stony-faced with a gun in his hand, and I tried to make my way up the stairs to Joe, but I never made it that far. I only made it about halfway up the stairs, if that, when Joe had reloaded and took his own head off. By the time I'd actually sort of looked over the top of the banister, I could see the obvious. Joe had killed himself. The first two policemen that walked in actually joked about it. The first one sort of looked at the bodies and said, come and have a look and see what a shotgun can do. And they were joking about it, I mean, from my perspective, you don't need that, do you, And they were looking at me and telling me to stay where I was, stay there, son, stay there. And then the detectives arrived about 2 minutes later. And one came in and started asking me what happened, who were they, etc., etc. I was arrested in the first place and taken down for my own safety. When they took me out, there was 50, 60 people out there shouting, murderer, murderer, and they knew nothing had gone on inside. It affected me really, really bad. I mean, it literally took me years to recover from it. It took me initially 2 years just to get over what had happened, and my nerves were on end for a long, long time, and literally I was a different person for quite a long time.